I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new Goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. The 23-24 season may have technically finished, but there is a lot going on Liverpool related, isn't there? And from the 1st of June, a lot of people officially start their contracts in their new roles, don't they? So here to talk head coaches, off the field news, transfer talk is as ever the renowned and the respected David Lynch. David, I'm guessing it's not a quiet time. It's not the summer break that everyone else is having for you guys, so to speak.
I mean, to be fair, immediately after the season, there is a little bit of a dip because it's kind of, no matches and the transfer stuff doesn't usually sort of kick off immediately after. So it is usually a bit quieter, but it's been kind of all right, actually, from my perspective, because so much happening at Liverpool and so much to sort of get into with the changes around the manager and stuff. So that's not too bad, actually. And kind of, you don't want it to be too quiet either, because sometimes it can be kind of a slog digging up stories or finding anything to write about. So it's been pretty good so far, but we'll see. It's early days in the summer, so yeah, might have a little dip at some point, but hopefully not. And I don't think we will, because there's a lot to resolve, isn't there?
Yeah, no doubt. And ladies and gents, we'll talk a lot of things. We'll talk the off the field. We'll talk an area of focus. We will talk transfers before anyone panics about the 80,000 questions that are coming in around that. And we'll even talk a little bit of wider football at the same time. So an interesting place to start, David, got to be the international call-ups, the provisional Euro squads, weren't they, were announced. And naturally, the focus for us is going to be on the England and Scotland ones. I mean, the England ones, I was going to ask if it's a surprise, but I don't know if it will be for some. Obviously, Jarell Quansah, the name that got there. Trent's in, as expected. Curtis Jones got named in the squad, but not Harvey Elliott. Any surprises there by who Southgate's put in and left out Liverpool-wise at all?
Well, I think Quansah's a nice surprise, isn't it? I mean, he absolutely deserves it, by the way. I don't think we mentioned him as a potential call-up because you don't, you just think from the outside, does everyone appreciate just how good this kid is? But obviously, it's great to see that Gareth Southgate's been keeping an eye on him. And as I say, he absolutely deserves it. I mean, he played an awful lot of the season for a side that finished third, was in the title race, went deep in Europe, won a trophy. So, he does deserve to be in that mix because, I mean, how many English centre-halves were having a season like that? I wouldn't say very many. So, he absolutely deserves to be there. Obviously, Trent was nailed on. We knew that would happen. Curtis Jones, again, a little bit of a surprise because I think, second half of the season wasn't great for him. But I think what's kind of helped him there is that England don't actually have an awful lot of orthodox central midfielders. I mean, it says a lot that they've named Trent as a midfielder, and he doesn't really play there for Liverpool. So, I think there was a space there, and I think he's a player who, especially, he would really, for me, suit tournament football. Slower pace. He never gives the ball away. Just keep in control. He wins his battles in the middle. So I think he could really suit it. I mean, a lot depends on what they do in the sort of the training camp before the tournament, whether they make the final cut. But I think for Quansah and Jones, they're real opportunity to push themselves in. It'd be interesting to see if either of them can do it. But it's great to see them in and around it, really.
Yeah, it is. And you're probably right there, because Curtis Jones was in the under-21s, the team that won the Euros last year, wasn't he? With Angel Gomez, played at sort of the double pivot. So he has got that experience at the same time. Probably for some, not for all, the biggest surprise might be Harvey Elliott being omitted. Were you surprised by that, just because of how well he's done and how he's finished the season, especially?
Well, we spoke about it in the last podcast, didn't we? And we sort of said, I said I think he should be in. I think he deserves it, especially with the way he's finished the season, what he's done in the season as a whole. But then I kind of saw the squad and I thought, do you know what? It's probably the right decision, really. I don't think England are short of left-footed attacking midfielders, are they? They've got a lot of options down that side, particularly if you're thinking just as right wing, which obviously Harvey Elliott can play. They've got Saka there, he's unbelievable, isn't he? But then you factor in Cole Palmer as well, can play in that midfield position. Foden can play right or inside, is left-footed as well. Yeah. So they've got an awful lot of options there. So I think that, again, that's counted against Harvey Elliott there. He's had a better season overall, I would say, than Curtis Jones. He's been more consistent. Yeah. But they've got different profiles, and for that reason, when you've got Cole Palmer, you've got Foden, you've got Saka, who can all play inside and outside as left-footers. I just think it's one that you can kind of understand, and it's harsh for Harvey Elliott, but his time will come as well. He's still a very, very young player, and there's plenty of time to get in England squads in the future, and I'm sure he absolutely will.
Yeah, there's probably not, being honest, there's probably not too many Reds that are good. That he has a bit of a rest this summer as well at the same time. And the Trent one's interesting, because you're right, Southgate's named him in midfield. Is that where you expect him to be used, that he doesn't really see him as a right back, in all honesty?
Yeah, I can't see him playing games there, because ultimately you've got Trippier, haven't they? They've got Kyle Walker, they've got options at right back that he's trusted more regularly in the past. So I just, and the fact that, the naming Trent as a midfielder, I mean, what will be fascinating to see is whether he's a starting midfielder, because like I said, I don't think England have, they do have some really good options there, don't get me wrong, but if Southgate maybe doesn't fancy Foden as a number 8, or he wants to kind of double pivot or whatever with Declan Rice and somebody else, he doesn't have, say, Calvin Phillips there anymore. Obviously he's dropped out of it. So, does he put Trent there alongside Declan Rice, then have Bellingham as the advanced one, Foden maybe somewhere in the front three? It's an interesting one to see. But I think, if you can get Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team, you absolutely have to, because he's got a quality that very few footballers in world football have. So, yeah, kind of fascinated to see how that plays out, actually, and what the England starting 11 starts to look like around the tournament.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see who's starting 11. And it's still a provisional squad, isn't it? So if all those players make the cut, as it were, Curtis Jones, etc., it will be an interesting one to watch. And maybe a bigger surprise, it almost feels like we've forgotten about this kid. Ben Doak makes the Scotland provisional squad. Do you think Liverpool, I don't know if they'd be worried about that, concerned, or thinking, it's a good opportunity for the kid at the same time?
Yeah, I don't think there's sort of concern. I think it's been expected it would be on the cards for a while. I mean, I think I'm right in saying he hasn't been in the senior squad before. So I think this is very much a case of Steve Clarke just wanting to have a look at him. And it's not guaranteed that he goes to the tournament. He's probably going to be lacking a little bit of sharpness as well, because he's only just back in training. So he's not probably going to be able to show the best version of himself. Or, well, hopefully he can, but it's going to be hard. So I think it's a case of looking at him and seeing whether he can squeeze in. So it's not guaranteed, but I think, he's got a quality that, very few players have in terms of his pace and ability to beat a man, which again, in a game, if you 0-0 late in a game, or you need to get back in it or whatever, he's got something, a little bit of magic in his boots there. So hopefully that's enough to see him in. But how much football they'll play, I'm not sure. And whether he's even ready physically to do that, we'll have to see, because that is, just a provisional squad. So we'll see whether he can make the cut. But I hope for his sake that he does.
Yeah, because he's had that long-term injury, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And the final one of the internationals, I mean, Mo Salah's an interesting one, because he's already been named in the Pharaoh squad for their summer qualifiers, and also there's this Olympic row, which I'm sure you've heard about. Maybe it's a row's the wrong word, because Egypt clearly have made it crystal clear they want to call him up to the Egypt squad for the Olympics in Paris. Is there any kind of noises coming out from Liverpool? Because obviously he's had that injury. It's played a part later into the season. This is probably not the ideal summer preparation you'd think that Arne Slot and Liverpool were looking for, an Olympic sort of tournament, would it be, really?
Yeah, nobody Liverpool side is shooting it down, but I can't see it in a million years, to be honest. I just cannot see it. Liverpool have the right to turn it down. I wrote a story about this last year, actually, when it was first mooted that he might be going to this Olympics. Liverpool, because it's not a FIFA accredited tournament, they can turn down the call up. And to be honest, because of everything that's going on in terms of you've got a new manager, certain players will be away at the Euros, the Copa America. They've already got issues elsewhere. I just think they'll want to get him in and get him started in the best possible way. So I can't see it. I mean, Egypt have surely got to think of getting Salah involved in that as a bonus rather than an absolute must. It's an under-23s tournament, isn't it? And you get 3 overage players. It's not like they're absolutely counting on him to be there. So I can't. And he's played in Olympics before as well. Don't forget, in London 2012. So he's had that experience. So I can't really I can't see Liverpool allowing that to happen, to be honest, because, as I say, too much to sort out this season. So many players elsewhere in pre-season being disrupted. You need your kind of main man to be there and be ready. So I expect that to be declined, even though nobody at Liverpool is kind of commenting on it at the moment.
Yeah, and that's before we even start talking about contracts and other things as well. So yeah, hopefully that does for us get shot down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the internationals. Moving into the sort of off-field news that's been big this week, I suppose the biggest one I know you broke was that for all the departures of the coaching staff, Claudio Taffarel, the goalkeeping coach, the Brazilian counterpart, will stay at Anfield next season, which, John Atterberg's gone, Jack Robinson's going as well. Did you take that when I know you broke that story within that's more favourable towards Allison staying, because there's been a lot of chat around that, hasn't there, specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think it, for me, confirms that Allison will stay. I mean, I wrote a story last week as well saying that, sources around Allison are saying that he's very happy at Liverpool anyway, even if there is interest. So, yeah, I think he's, and I think the fact that Taffarel's staying, we can read into that he's definitely going to stick around this summer, which is obviously great news. I mean, what it sort of means in terms of what the goalkeeping department looks like is interesting, isn't it? Because it's been put to me, I've spoke to people this week that said that they're definitely on the hunt for another goalkeeper coach. That's definitely the ideal situation. I'd be interested to see who that is as well. I don't think it's going to go back to being a 3-man goalkeeping department. I think it's maybe going to be Taffarel and one more. But it'd be interesting to see who it is. I mean, I believe there's some potential interest around Jiri Nieminen at Feyenoord. Obviously, he has a lot of qualities from people you speak to about that would really make him a good fit to come to a club like Liverpool. And obviously he's been a good fit with Slot before in terms of the type of football they want the goalkeepers to play. So that's one to keep an eye on, really. But it's I think just the basics of the Taffarel thing is that he was recommended to the club by Allison. Keeping him around keeps Allison happy. You want to keep him, and so I think it's all positive on that front. But what the goalkeeping department ends up looking like, we'll have to sort of see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
it does seem a positive for Allison in that regard, definitely. And one story I did want to get your take on, because it's one it kind of came from Germany, and there's not a lot like in this for obvious reasons. That Sepp van der Berg done very well at Mainz, hasn't he? Helped keep them up. Now, there's been a lot of suggestions from the likes of Kicker and German publications that there is almost a clause with Mainz, and Liverpool have agreed that, dependent on which report, but even as low as €5 million. Have you heard anything on this? Do you buy into it at all?
I do, because I think there were reports around the time that he moved there that suggested there was quite a low release clause in there. So I absolutely believe that. It does feel low, but especially because he's had a really good season over there. And I would expect Mainz would want to trigger that regardless of whether Liverpool, whatever Liverpool's plans for him are anyway. Even if they had to sell him themselves, they would probably trigger that if it's that low. Yeah. We haven't had any sort of confirmation about what Van der Berg wants to do yet, so we'll have to see. But yeah, it does seem on the low side for a player who's done quite well over there. He can play right back as well. Seems a bit of a shame, that one, but it doesn't. I wouldn't expect, regardless of whether he ends up staying there or not, I don't think he's probably going to be in Liverpool's plans in the long term, to be honest. So, it's going to be interesting to see whether that gets triggered and what the exact numbers come out as.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see because people are looking, aren't they, and thinking, will his fellow Dutch colleague or Dutch counterpart give him a shot, or will he not? So it'll be interesting to see on that. And another story that quite a lot of people were intrigued by was, I'm sure you've seen it, the Athletic almost did the organisation chart, didn't they, and the way it's changed with Slot coming in. Now, there's quite distinct things in there that Slot almost had the reporting line through to Richard Hughes, as though he would have seniority over that. And obviously the Julian Ward, Marquez situation, there's almost a sideline, all connected to, ultimately, Michael Edwards. But at the same time, no mention of or sight of Alex Inglethorpe on that. I mean, did anything surprise you on there from what you saw, or was it what you expected ultimately?
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new Goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end,
What will I become? Senwa Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
What's up, sandwich heads? Today on Steve-O's Sandwich Reviews, we've got the tips and tricks to the best sandwich order. And it all starts with this little guy right here. Pepsi Zero Sugar. Partial to pastrami, craving a Cubano. Yeah, sounds delicious, but boom! Add the crisp, refreshing taste of Pepsi Zero Sugar and cue the fireworks. Lunch, dinner, or late night, it'll be a sandwich worth celebrating. Trust me, your boy's eaten a lot of sandwiches in his day, and the one thing I can say with absolute fact, every bite is better with Pepsi.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
No, I guess that's it's pretty much exactly what I would have expected, to be honest, in that, Richard Hughes is the sporting director. The manager should always report into the sporting director. That's absolutely how it should work within a club that's structured in that way. So I don't think that's a surprise. And then obviously Richard Hughes reporting into Michael Edwards, again, not a surprise. He's the head of football at FSG, so he's going to be in charge of all that. And then, the fact that Ward and Marquez are separate to that, again, they are FSG appointments, so they're not going to be sort of hands-on at Liverpool. That is what we expect again. So again, probably not a surprise. I think, I just thought that was, I'm kind of surprised it made such an impact, to be honest, because I just think that's what I personally presumed it would be. I guess a lot of people would have, but see, I don't know, seemingly not. I just think that's how I thought it would work, and I'm not massively shocked by that, if I'm honest. But people seem to be really interested by it.
Yeah, I think it's almost that change from Jurgen Klopp's all-encompassing power, especially last summer, felt very British-style, old-school approach. It's very much now moved towards the the European model, isn't it? As we're seeing other clubs do, head coach, but the sporting director, that side, having more power over transfers and say that way.
Yeah, and it's absolutely what FSG have wanted for a long time. I mean, they were willing to give up a certain amount of power to Jurgen Klopp and let him run things in his own way on the simple basis that he's a genius. So, you know, and there's value in giving into his whims and allowing him that power. But they always have felt safer in this sort of structure and always wanted to go back to this. And it's a perfect time when you lose someone like Klopp to go back to that. And I think also you're probably not going to find another person like Klopp, are you? So to sort of, you know, spread the power out, to delegate, to do it in that way it's a better and safer structure for Liverpool to be in a post Jurgen Klopp world. And I think it will, you know, I think it will help them going forward to be working in that way, because it doesn't, you're not trying to uncover another genius who can run absolutely everything. You've got sort of, everybody's got their own jobs, and Slot can come in and, for example, focus on coaching the team. He will have a say in transfers, by the way. They're not going to force players on him that he doesn't want to coach. But obviously it's a collaborative effort working together rather than one man saying, this is what I want. Yeah,
be interesting to see. Almost feels like the right people in the right places making the right decisions, as it were. So that's the ultimate hope there. And this one, I know you mentioned it, to be fair, I can't remember the exact date, but it almost feels like the set piece coach. And all of a sudden we're getting stories where Liverpool are on LinkedIn advertising as well. So that's another thing. But when you saw the set piece story, was there a little bit of like, for you, hallelujah, the pennies dropped a little bit? This is good to see.
It's just really nice to know that Michael Edwards subscribes to Anfield Index and listens to Media Matters. That for me is really reassuring. So thank you for listening, Michael. Great to have you on board. But I'm really pleased about it, because I think the podcast we were talking about it, and the weekend that really sort of etched it into my mind, the importance was when Arsenal beat Tottenham 3-2, and basically there was a narrative that they breathed that game. But the reality is they got thrashed on expected goals. They got outshot by Tottenham. They were very close to conceding a third goal, which was a very narrow offside. But because they'd basically gone 3-0 up quite early in the game, and two of those were corners, the narrative was that they breezed the game and it was easy and they'd absolutely dominated Tottenham on their own patch. Not true at all, really. They just scored two set pieces and good moments in the game to score them. And I just think it shows that no matter what happens in the football match, there's almost this separate sport you have alongside it, which is the set pieces and the free goals from nowhere sometimes. And you just think, you know, they can change the narrative around games. They can change the momentum. So to not have a dedicated coach in this day and age just seemed like madness. And again, absolutely glad that Liverpool are going down that route, because to be fair, they weren't too bad in terms of set pieces. I think fourth or fifth most scored in the league this season, but defensively not quite as good. So, and the fact is that Arsenal had scored the most, City had conceded the fewest, and they're the two teams you want to get near. So you need to get near their numbers on set pieces, and that is to have someone who's dedicated to doing that, to working out ways of hurting the opposition through them, to make Liverpool better at them. Really positive step forward, because if you can nick a few more goals from those in situations, it really can sort of change your season. And I think Liverpool have actually massively, even though they've done okay on set pieces last season, they'd actually underperformed their XG on them quite significantly, I believe. I was looking into this. They had really high XG from set pieces and hadn't made the most of it. So, you know, finding ways of getting those, it could have probably been the difference in that period where they went through, where the attack was really sticky. Say, you know, if you scored a couple from corners at Goodison Park, for example, could have changed the game completely. It would have made Everton desperate. It would, you know, in that period, that could have really helped Liverpool stay in touch. So really glad it's something that they're looking into, and that there will be a set piece coach for next season, because I think it just takes a little bit of pressure off the manager as well. It just could, you know, if you can add 5 or 6 goals through that, you just need to have to think about that. So it's, I think it's a huge positive.
Yeah, no doubt. It does feel like almost a data-driven decision that we're expecting as well. So yeah, hopefully that's coming into the fray. And probably the only other real sort of off-the-field story to mention, Darwin Núñez. I mean, there's obviously in recent weeks, recent months, been talk around social media, and he was honest and said how it had affected him, and said, you know, anyone would be lying if they said it didn't affect them, how he almost feels like more back home in Argentina and safer that way. I mean, we'll kind of talk about Núñez and the wider point on social media. I mean, footballers and social media, the wider point, it's always going to be there, isn't it? It's always just going to be a part of life that they have to deal with. Is that fair to say?
It is, but I'm kind of amazed by how that Nunes has said this in terms of I'm surprised that he, knowing what he's like on the pitch and sort of a very emotional player, very sort of, you can see when he's in his own head sometimes. I'm so surprised that he actually operates his own social media. You know, I understand that players have got to have one for, marketing opportunities, all those sorts of things, to market themselves, to create their own brand and to make money through sponsorships and all that sort of thing. But for someone like Nunes to actually be running his own social media is crazy. What is he doing looking at that stuff? It's not good for you. And he, some players can handle it. I think of like Neil Mopai, his social media is very funny, and he's a character who he loves winding other people up. You can tell he sort of thrives off criticism when he's on the pitch. So absolutely fine with him having a look at it and seeing what the comments are, because it seems to sort of motivate him. Whereas Nunes, I would have said, he's one of the great examples of a player who shouldn't be running his own social media, shouldn't be looking at it. And Matt, if I ever sat him down and to give him some advice for next season, it's don't have Instagram on your phone, don't have Twitter, do not look at them, get someone else to run it for you so you can get all the benefits of, whatever, the sponsorships and all that. But don't look at it, because he's not the kind of player who can take it. And I'm saying this isn't a criticism or calling him mentally weak. I'm like that. I don't have my mentions turned on Twitter because some of the stuff you get on it, bad faith, awful, nonsense that gets tweeted at you when you just sort of writing about football. So I'm not mentally strong enough to take it. So I'm not criticizing him at all. I'm just saying, if he's a little bit like me around that, don't ever look at it, because it'll probably make you a better footballer to not look at it, because it can get in your head, and it's, some people are awful on there. Some people are really nice, but the awful ones tend to stick in your head. So, don't look at it, would be my advice, and don't go anywhere near it. And surprised that he ever did, really.
Yeah, it's one of those. It was surprising, but it was maybe quite revealing, especially the way it's gone at the end of the season. People saying in his own head, his reactions, he is an emotional character. So, yeah, there was a bit of a surprise there. We'll see what happens going forward with Darwin and his social media. So, yeah, that was the off the field stuff. Now, ladies and gents, what we'll do every week is we want to focus on certain areas of the team. So this week we want to look at goalkeepers. So specifically, we've talked about Allison. David, there's a lot of question marks still around Kelleher. It's an interesting one. Jaros is coming back from Sturm Graz, isn't he? They've just won the Austrian league. There's talk around Patuglia and how he struggled in Ireland that way. Even Adrian Winow's going. Even Alex McCarthy's linked. So for what's seen as maybe not the sexiest position on the pitch, there's a lot of talk around the goalkeeper situation. I suppose the obvious point to start at, we feel more safe with Allison than the Taffarel scenario. Kelleher, there's still those question marks. Would you put any money, though, on Allison being 1 and Kelleher 2 next season, like they were for this campaign just gone?
I'm not convinced that Kelleher will still be here. A lot's got to happen, by the way. You can't confidently predict that a player will definitely... It's impossible to say he will leave, X, Y, Z will leave in the squad, because the offer's got to come, the offer's got to be right for the player, it's got to be right for the club. So anyone who sort of has any ability to predict these things, you just can't, basically. So... But I would never, I wouldn't back the idea that Kelleher is going to be about as number 2 next season, just because I think there will be interest. I thought he had a great season as Allison's backup. He's won the League Cup for the second time, so you probably think, look, it's probably time to move on now and play more regular football. So I would expect that he goes, but obviously a lot has got to happen for that to come off. So it's not sometimes absolutely nailed on, but I just expect that it will happen, because I just think there's going to be interest there. He played a lot more football this season than he did the season before, so that the interest is going to be stronger, and he's probably ready to go. It's that stage in his career, so I think it's interesting, because Liverpool have got quite a bit to do then in the goalkeeper department if Allison go as it looks, Adrian goes as it looks like it's going to be. So yeah, it's got some signings to possibly make there. Some of the names that have been linked, sort of some of them feel kind of third goalkeeper-ish as well. So it's And of course, as you say, they've got to look at someone like Jaros and see what shape he's in. Maybe that's one that they wait till the sort of pre-season and have a real good look at where he's up to and make a decision on that. But it's an interesting situation around that, and some business probably to be done.
It does seem strange because we saw obviously the exit of Matip, Thiago at the end of the season, but there was zero mention of Adrian whatsoever, bar Adrian's given, an interview recently saying, yeah, I would like to finish my career back in La Liga, that type of thing, go back to Spain. But Liverpool, giving no comment, nothing away on that. I know you've written before as well on Anthony Patterson, the Sunderland man was being looked at. There's been stories around Alex McCarthy, I think the Southampton possibly coming in. Do you think if there is an addition, there will be a sort of focus on, like we mentioned, Yaros will count as homegrown because of his age, how he's done in the academy, or McCarthy would count as homegrown, Patterson homegrown? Do you think that will be a focus of keeping that quota up as well?
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the sort of downsides, isn't it, to losing Kelleher, is that you lose a homegrown spot. So I think, if they do end up needing two keepers, one for second choice, one for third, that at least one of those is surely going to be homegrown. They don't want to give themselves an issue there. And obviously, Adrian got left out the Europa League squad, didn't he, last season? So they had a homegrown issue there already. So maybe if they could get two homegrown keepers for second and third choice, that would really, really be helpful in terms of how you lay the squad out and give you an extra spot elsewhere. So it'd be interesting to see what they do around that. But it's just problems to solve, isn't it? Another thing in this summer that is so busy. What happens in the goalkeeper department is a really interesting one. And, we mentioned earlier, they're looking for another goalkeeper coach as well. So still got that issue to solve. So it's, a lot going on behind the scenes in the goalkeeper department.
Yeah, we're not even talking about the rest of the team already, and potentially we could be looking at up to two coming in, a coach. The things to do just mount up, as it were. They're still going to be there for the next few weeks, and no doubt we're going to be talking about them as well. And speaking of talking about it, you had zero doubt transfer talk was going to be on the table, because we're at that period. You know how it works. Everyone's asking, everyone wants to know for natural reasons what's going on. Who are Liverpool bringing in? Who might be going out, etc. So it's almost going to feel like a recurring theme. I mean, Salah tweeted, didn't he, saying about next season, how we're going to fight. He's one of the 12-month players. So now people, we kind of mentioned this last week, are talking about it. Trent looked like he had his overalls ready to go painting on at the Monaco Grand Prix, and Virgil was there, wasn't he, in his flannel shirts. There's a lot of questions, and I mean they were asked, but they both talked about next season. It is the obvious place to start. The Twans who have got 12 months left. This is just going to rumble, isn't it, all summer until someone does something or says something solid. Either way, isn't it, realistically?
Yeah, but I guess the one thing you can say is that the expectation is all three of them will be there next season. So I guess there's, in terms of urgency, it probably just takes the edge off that. It doesn't need to be solved in the next 2 weeks or all hell will break loose. They are in a situation where they've got 12 months left, but talks have got to sort of start now. I mean, we spoke to Van Dijk last week, and he told, I asked him about his contract, and he said, there's nothing on the table at the moment, which shows you that they're not in a situation where they're putting the finishing touches to a contract or anything like that. Yeah. So, this has all got to happen now in the coming sort of weeks. So, I mean, the one you'd be most nervous about is Trent, isn't it? He has to get signed up to a long-term contract. There's no, I said before that I think Salah, we're in a situation where, it wouldn't be the worst thing on earth if he just played out the final 12 months and then went and got a big payday elsewhere. I think kind of they would be happy to shake hands on that. I mean, just on that, actually, countless comments on a YouTube video I did about, the situation around outgoings. Yeah. People telling me that they can't let Salah leave for free. They don't have a choice in that. They don't have a choice in that. They either sign him up to a new contract, but they might not want to give him a new contract at 350 grand a week because they think, well, there is some decline coming. So if you don't want to do that, you can't turn around to the player and say, you go in. Because if he doesn't want to go, he's got a contract for another year. If he wants to wait for a year so that he gets a big payday without a transfer fee involved, that can all just go, the transfer fee can effectively go into his wage packet. That's what he will wait for. So I just need to emphasize that, because I get so many tweets and comments about, if Salah's going to go for free, he should be sold now. He doesn't want to go. He tweeted that and he won't be going. So it's not just Liverpool who have agency in this situation, and people need to remember that. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. Yeah. But in terms of the three contracts, it's obviously not been unless something's happened since I spoke to Van Dijk last week, then, or the week before, sorry. then, you know, we're in the same situation as we were. But I think it's going to be something that ramps up over this summer. It's on the in tray, isn't it, of Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards will no doubt get involved in that as well. So it's something they've got to sort, but nothing's happening yet. And we've just got to hold on and wait and see what happens with all three of those players.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new Goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at LiverpoolFC.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.